Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis. It's time for an edition of No Capes, where I talk about comic books that don't have to do with superheroes. These are for comic books for the week of January 28th, 2015. I apologize in advance if you hear lots of fans running and whatnot. I have a space heater running, the heat's running and whatnot. I've just been out in very cold rain. We've had decent weather as far as winter goes, in the fact there hasn't been lots of snow. But we're getting lots and lots of rain right now, and the temperature is just enough above freezing that it doesn't turn to snow, but it's still damn cold when you're out in it for a long time. So anyway, trying to warm up. We're going to talk some comic books. In no particular order, I have a metric ton of no capes this week. So be prepared, get yourself something good to drink, sit down, relax, whatever, or turn it off now and don't bother to watch. Anyway, let's talk some comics, shall we? First up, Bodies, number 7 of 8. The penultimate issue. I got to look up why we call it the penultimate issue. Because it occurs to me I've been using that and I have no idea why. Anyway, another really enjoyable issue. Continue to like the different styles of art in here. Things are really coming to a header in a couple of, well, actually in all of the timelines. In our Jack the Ripper era, we actually see Jack the Ripper. It is shown in this issue for us. Our detective basically starts to question some things, gets pretty much what every man desires thrown in front of him. Lots of sex and that sort of stuff. Gets him sidetracked for a period of time. I almost feel like that he's going to be the sacrificial goat here. Who knows? In the far-flung future, we see the setup that made Earth the way it is. This pulse wave that happened seems to be the relative of our detective is the culprit behind that, and how does that tie into the harvest and our body and whatnot? And of course, in the current times, our English female detective who is of Muslim religion has basically walked herself into a trap and now has herself basically on a list as being marked as a terrorist. And she's going to do some pretty extreme things to try and get herself out of the situation she's in. In England, my understanding is that if you've been scooped up as a terrorist, they can hold you for days and days without any rights, basically. And she's basically in that situation, and potentially is going to be handed over to American Black Ops and find herself like in Gitmo or something like that if she doesn't do something drastic, which looks like she's about ready to do. And then in our 1940s, the story ends in our 1940s era. That detective feels like he's hallucinating. He's been exposed to a bunch of stuff by the thing that's been exposed a couple issues ago, this body and stuff. It all seems to be coming to one crazy head here. I don't know if the timelines are actually going to mesh, if it's going to explain what happens, if these different events that are going on in these different places are actually just all going to stitch together, or if they're going to help just maintain the chain of events that has been transpiring here. Really cool, really enjoying it. Clearly at this point, if you haven't been picking it up, I know in March the trade comes out. Might be worth picking up. The art is gorgeous all the way through all 4 timelines. The artists they have it on are pretty outstanding. The story has been extremely entertaining. This issue added some confusion. The next issue, I think, is what the whole book will ride on, as far as beyond it just being kind of entertaining to read, but was it successful as an entire story altogether? The next issue, I'm sure, will tell us that, because it's the final issue. Does it get all put together? But still really enjoying it and loving all the different parts of it. It's been really cool and been a pleasure to read so far. Bicha Planet issue number 2. Actually really, really like this issue a lot more than issue 1. Issue 1 kind of was set up to kind of get the gears flowing as to what we might get to see. Here we start executing some of that stuff. we're getting character building type moments. What are these people like and whatnot? But we also get some plot, some movement. This is where we're going. It's not solely going to just be, scene after scene of a women's prison and the spectacles that go on there. Trying to decide how much I really want to talk about it. Like I said, I'm really enjoying it. I find like the first part really interesting. The whole coercion part of the beginning of this, coining a phrase that reader 1717 coined, the pink lady, as she called her in this, and I'm going to call it that from now on. The hologram, this pink hologram of this curvaceous woman who basically berates or preaches at or indoctrinates the women in this prison. It's just a constant bombardment of our main character, or seemingly one of our main characters, this significantly, seemingly capable woman who's in prison here, trying to break her down to make her admit to a murder that she had nothing to do with. And, some stuff transpires out of that inspires them to decide that maybe she'd be good for this sport. They have this sport that these places do, and Bicha Planet wants to create their own team of the criminal element that's there on Bicha Planet. And so I'd be curious to see exactly what that is. We get some hints of what this character is. We're introduced to some other characters, some father figures. And when I say father figures, not father as in they are fathers, but they call themselves fathers. I don't know if they're the government organization or they're some religious government organization. We haven't really had that part filled in. They almost feel like really, really powerful senators that are called fathers. But I'm not exactly sure. My sense of the characters right now, so I'm really curious to see where that's at. Curious to see the world building that might go on in this. There's lots of great shots in the background, lots of dynamic stuff going on, while in the foreground we have these other things. Couple interesting proposals of wreaking revenge upon the man in this starts to be brought up, which will be really cool to see what that ends up being like. There's, I had some great discussion on Twitter with some people about Bicha Planet, Reddit, basically the exact same time they were reading it. We discussed some pretty heavy things in it as far as like, in the background of this woman who's trying to convince our, one of the main characters in here to start this team, this athletic team, in her quarters. She's doing something. It looks like she's there dissecting somebody. Just butchering them, or we're not sure what. That's really odd in here. There's a curious part here where, they're like on a holodeck and they can create any kind of thing. She creates a scene in Georgia where she's drinking herself some lemonade and some sweet tea, basically, and some squirrels are getting killed. It's some really odd bits and pieces in here that make me really curious. There's also the opening splash page. It's a 2-page panel that says Bicha Planet on it, and it has usually some sort of a kind of a scene going on. In this one, it of course is all of our inmates basically standing naked as the pink lady is observing them in some sense. There's some interesting discussion about that page. Does that page inform something within the rest of the book? It didn't seem to me like it did. So it's those kinds of choices that I'm curious about. I mean, yes, it shows them in this kind of vulnerable, supposedly non-provocative fashion. I don't know in this day and age that, just showing naked women isn't somehow provocative to the larger audience. To the audience of this book, I don't know if it is, but to the larger audience, typically that would be considered provocative in some sense. So what's it saying there? Haven't quite decided what I think it's saying there. If it's saying something, is the book that deep to be saying something there in that part? I kind of think it is, but I'm not sure exactly what. If you have thoughts as to what you think that is, if you've read this book, because it doesn't play into the rest of the book in and of itself in the actual story that's in that issue. Not saying that it doesn't play into the theme of what the book's about, clearly. But yeah. What do you think? What do you think of that part of it? But still, really enjoyed this issue of Bicha Planet. Like I said, way more than the first issue. I like the first issue. This issue actually has me interested and excited to see what's going to go on in it. So cool for that. And the state in the letters page of it. Letters page, the back matter. The first part of the back matter is stuff by Kelly Sue, where she's talking about some things. She talks about the fact that they're going to give the artist a break on the book, so without making it take long breaks like lots of the Image titles tend to take a month, 2-month break every so often after every arc. They do that to give people a chance to have a life, to take a vacation, to get caught back up, to rejuvenate ourselves, whatever the reasons are for that, which is awesome. That works great. They've decided to dedicate themselves to making sure it maintains a monthly book, and so to give the artist the break that the artist needs, every third issue, it sounds like, will be a one shot on a character or that sort of thing. So the first one that's coming up is Penny, the large woman who's been in the first 2 books, who's been really great. She has some great stuff in this issue too. So she is going to be the first one, so I'm excited by that. She looks like a pretty dynamic character. Curious to see if we get kind of background around her, and that should be awesome. And I think that'd be a kind of a cool way to introduce that. I'm curious though, because it feels to me like we've got this plot that's just barely gotten going, and we're going to take a break for an issue, and unless it ties into the story a little more than just being about this character, doesn't that kind of throw us off of the plot line a little bit? So I'm curious to see, and the story, the actual active story going on. So I'm curious to see how that works as a mechanical purposes for the book. Is that going to be almost as bad as having a break? Because see, with all these other Image books, they take a break after an arc, not in the middle of a story. It's after that piece of story is over with, so you get a satisfying kind of an end to that piece. Even though clearly there's more story to be told. You take that break and you come back and then move forward whatever the next chapter kind of a type thing is going to be. Whereas this one's going to land in the middle of something, it seems. So mechanically, will that work, or is that going to throw us off the getting moving of the story? We'll see, I guess. They're Not Like Us, issue number 2. Really enjoying this story. I love the art. Simon Gain is the artist, Jody Balleri on colors. I just think they did a really great job, both of them as artists on the book. I love the fact that there isn't always details throughout the panel. It's not lots of detailed backgrounds, but when they decide that those details count, they really count. I think that's just outstanding art. The cover is an excellent example of that. Just the richness, the line work, the details. It feels rich and alive. Yes, the characters. Some of the characters are more caricature. The voice has a incredibly strong chin. In this case, I don't think that throws from the story at all. Like I said, the artist has their own style. Their faces have a distinct. Everybody has a flatter nose, it seems, but it works. Everybody looks like their own individual people. If they're of an ethnicity, they do look like that ethnicity. It's consistent. But yeah, like I said, some of these pages, the detail, the colors, the richness, the hues, all outstanding as far as that goes. Now, as far as the story itself, really digging it too. This issue, I came away with it just really, these people that our main character is getting herself hooked up with. This secret house of telepathic wielding individuals is really sinister. We get this story being told of a group of these people from the house beating this dude up. What's seemingly beating him up because he's wearing retro 1970s headphones, and that's what they want. And they literally kick the shit out of him. It's not like they just kind of slap him around and take his headstones. I mean, they beat him into the ground. And seemingly just for no real good reason other than they can. About halfway through the story, we get another pitch, another sale as to this whole thing. Oh, what you weren't told is this guy was a tagger, and he was going to be spray painting, because I'm a clairvoyant, I can see into the future. He was going to be spray painting a bunch of stuff in our neighborhood. That was going to attract more police around. The police are going to be around a lot more, and we don't need the attention. We, as a group, don't need the attention. We're trying to blend in, be invisible right out in broad daylight. because clearly if people knew about us, we would be under the microscope and all those kinds of things that you'd worry about if you're a person with some sort of special powers in a world where seemingly we don't think those people with special powers exist. So it has this real sinister, this sinister tone to it, but still really kind of cool. Our main character, I think, is going to struggle with this whole thing. There's some sort, there's an appeal to it. Maybe the violence is an appeal to it to some degree, but she's also very put off by it and sickened by it. But at the same time, there's also this appeal of finding a place where she belongs, because these people may not be exactly like her, but they're enough like her that she can feel like she belongs. There's a question of, is she really feeling that herself, or is it the other people in the house that are manipulating her, even though they say they're not, because clearly they can do that. I mean, at one point in here, she goes, look, since I've been here, I haven't heard all these other voices and whatnot. I know you guys are doing something. Stop doing it. Let me think for myself. Then they go, okay, we're done. We're not gonna, protect you anymore. She's suddenly bombarded by the house, and it seems heavy and violent and whatnot. I don't know if that's just because she got used to not having it, or maybe they turned it up to 11, just to really put it to her to help manipulate. We don't know, and that's some of the stuff I'm really curious about, and think it's going to be really interesting. She has them all back off, but she seems to kind of be settling in. Of course, there's still the hanging up thing from the first issue where they told her at the end of it that, to be part of the house, she's going to have to kill her family. So curious to see where that's going to go to. I am really liking it. It is interesting. Like I said, really like the art. It's just enough interesting and different that I'm digging it for that. Anger is an energy. So cool stuff. Cool stuff. Rasputin. This is issue number 4. We move further along in the current Rasputin story as far as where he's at in the dinner that he's being killed at. He's now outside. They're starting to shoot him, basically. He continues to remember back as to how he got himself where he's at and put himself in the position that he's in. Some fun things in here of him taking on personalities. He heals a dog in this reluctantly, and he kind of takes on the personality of animals. He does not like healing animals because he takes on their personalities. So he spends part of the issue running around like a cocker spaniel, basically. He growls at people, eats like a dog, and barks at people and growls and that sort of stuff, which is kind of fun. And of course, it's all about the Rosmo art, right? And it's outstanding in it. As far as that goes, not tons of story really in this. Continues. I am kind of enjoying it more than I was around issue 2. I can't remember, this is like 6 issues, or there's one more issue, 5 or 6 issues. In my understanding of knowledge of the events of his death, of Rasputin, the actual Rasputin's death, we're getting fairly close to the end. So it'll be curious to see what that is. I know what the end is, but what more story we're going to get out of it and whatnot. So amusing for that. And I've been waiting so long for this book. Casanova. Acedia #1. I love Casanova. I have loved Casanova since the first Image, when it first came out under Image many years ago as a $1 book, 3-tone color, and a standard bland font as the font in the book. Love the concept from the second it started out. Gabriel Bra and Fabio Moon's artwork as they traded off on this book was always brilliant, and this is no exception. Absolutely love the artwork. There are some incredible scenes in this, some wonderful shots. I showed this page on, this page, places and whatnot. It's after a party. People have balloons strapped to their wrists. Here's some of the flat balloons as you go along. Here's a diving from a swimming pool, diving board, and our hot female assassin hanging her feet off, inviting Casanova Quinn, who cannot remember who he is in this issue. She knows who he is. She attempts to assassinate him. The basic setup of this part of the story is he's working for this old man who looks like a mix between Hemingway and for those of you familiar with the Dos Equis beer commercial, the man of mystery, he doesn't drink always, but when he does, he drinks sake. That guy, he's like a mix between those two people. He doesn't really know his past either. Casanova doesn't know his past. So they make a bargain. And this is the guy he works for. He's kind of a bodyguard, party planner, and all that sort of thing, all around right-hand man. They make a pact, basically. The old man will find out Casanova's history because he has a blind spot to his own history, and the old man has a blind spot to his history, so Casanova's going to go out and search his history, and they'll share that wealth with each other and to find out who they really are. Lots of cool stuff happens in here. Casanova fights some cultists. There's stereotypical, not stereotypical hot babes in the thing because it's a spy and murder mystery and all that kind of stuff. So it has some of those tropes in there. It also has some sci-fi elements, has some occult elements in it. Casanova is just a really kind of a cool, witty dude in the thing. He's always got this kind of play. He plays with words a lot right in the thing, which is all really great. Cultists actually do a pentagram around his car and burn it to the ground, which is awesome. Final shot of the story is more of those balloons going flat on the stairwells of a party. Just freaking incredible stuff as far as that goes. And then there's a backup story in the back of it, which is equally awesome, by the other twin artist and another writer. It's about a girl band, and there's some incredible rock and roll in there, and some just awesome artwork for it. So exciting stuff. Humongous fan. I can never explain well enough exactly all the awesome little things about Casanova. I can probably nerd out almost panel to panel on most of these books, but I'll save you all of that, other than go check some of it out. Maybe not start here. I think you could start here, even though it's going to mine some of his past. But the nice thing about this issue, or this story seems to be, is he doesn't remember the past either. So I don't know that we as the reader have to know his past, because we're gonna get to see it and explore it. I think if you were a long-time reader who've been reading the story all along, you're going to be able to go, aha, about the little things that are going on in it. I think as a new reader, you can go into it and discover Casanova Quinn as he discovers himself, which might be a cool way to read it too. So yeah, anybody's up for talking Casanova at any point, give me a shout, because I love to talk that book. Next up is The Life After, issue 6. Still a great story. Every issue of this I enjoy more and more. This issue actually had me laughing out loud. I mean, I was laughing. There's some absolutely funny moments in this. Caveat right at the bat: if you are really sensitive to the topics of religion, whether that be Christianity or otherwise, probably not a book for you. But otherwise, it's fun. It's not like I said, unless you're hardcore serious, it's not blasphemous in any sense. But it plays loose and fast with religion as a whole, because we are talking about the afterlife and how that works. In this, there's a level of corporate machinations going on. There's some great stuff in there. There's a giant bunny in this thing that's a giant elder god that has some incredibly hilarious lines in it that I think are just really funny. Well, the other thing, you got this giant group of children. These group of children seem to be children who are living kind of in limbo land. They are kids who died at very early ages. They weren't around long enough to really have done anything. So clearly they don't subscribe to original sin. These kids haven't had enough time in their lives to do something to make a decision whether they should go to heaven or hell. So they're kind of in this in-between place, it seems to be, and they are growing up in this in-between place, seemingly, because our lead female character in this, who our main male character, Jude, kind of messed up when he had touched her and stuff and kind of threw her out of her own timeline. She lost her child. Her child is there, and she gets introduced to her child. That's a big thing that I think is going to be going forward. See how that's going to work out. Of course, there's the whole heaven and hell thing going on. It seems like there will be some people who might be switching sides to go work for a different corporation, as it were. All really wonderful stuff. Just a really cool, fun book by Joshua Hill. Hale Falcoff is the writer, and Gabo, Gabo is the artist on it, and it's just been a lot of fun. That issue was hilarious. Like I said, I laughed through it quite a bit. Criminal Minds, holy cows. Sex Criminals, number 10. Excellent issue. An issue where, you know, you get the kind of fun, goofy sex stuff that's going on in it, but also another issue where they do a really good job of dealing with some really personal stuff. How fragile people can be, how fragile their psyches can be, how much of a struggle it can be sometimes when you've actually fallen for somebody and you're afraid of all the ramifications of what happens if you say to that person that you love them or that you've fallen in love with them, and you're not sure where they're at, you're not sure where you're at as a relationship. And so there's some great workings through here, or not workings through here, that I find really interesting. And of course, they've also hooked up with this ex-porn star teacher who can slip into the quiet like they can. And that whole thing is really intimidating and really strange because it's a struggle for her to reach the quiet, as it were. And her quiet, lo and behold, by the time they get to the end, they discover is not the same as John and Susie's. So that's pretty interesting. And of course, the sex police are going to come rolling in and throw the hammer at them at some point here, it looks like. So excited for that. Very good issue. Pretty cool stuff going on in it. Vertigo Quarterly, black. This is the last of the 4 colors. Probably the best of them, all of them. Clearly a spendy book. It's $7.99. It's pretty thick. It's got a great, thick, slick stock cover on it. But there's some great stories in here. The first one here is The Dying of the Light, which the entire thing is done by Francesco Francavilla, which is just brilliant. Him doing a kind of a space horror type story, which is just completely ace. There's a Sweet Tooth, never told story. Sweet Tooth, if you're familiar with the Vertigo Sweet Tooth line, this is all Jeff Lemire telling a story before Gus leaves the woods to go on his adventures that are in the regular Sweet Tooth book. This is a little story in here that was pretty interesting too. Like I said, all this stuff is centered around black. There's also another story in here I really liked a lot called The Fade by Steven Siegel and art by Teddy H. Christian. And it's got these just long panels and whatnot that go from black to light to black in a number of fashions, and most of the time the guy walks out into like a lake, seems to be falls into the ice. You get a black to light as it's the dawning of the universe, and then the universe exploding kind of a thing. You get a version of it with dinosaurs. You get a version with it with basically like Rome, from the building and then the burning of the whole thing, and more stuff, technology, people, a few pages of that, and then it goes back to the person under the ice, the light as they're on the wrong end of being under the ice, and they're going black clearly because after they've fallen through, it's frozen back over again. How long can a person survive under there? Just really, really, really cool, really brilliant. And there's some other great one-shot stories in here also that are really cool. Lots of different kind of stuff. There's kind of a goth one, a goth telling story, and a fitting end that was kind of really kind of cool. And then of course it ends at the very end. It's a Fabio Moon story that is just the end, called Farewell, which is the final story, and it's brilliant, of course, because of course it's these guys and their magical art, and it's just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. So really cool if you like anthology stuff. I do. I like anthology books, so always happy to read another one. Curious to see what's next for the Vertigo Quarterly. I think the next one's like extreme sport type thing, and I think I saw a preview of somebody riding a surfboard across lava. So we'll see what that ends up being like. I'm kind of really excited for that. So yeah. Anyway, next is Vertigo #1. This is a brand new book. This is Effigy. It's written by Tim Seeley, who of course writes Revival, of course also writes Sundowners, helps write Grayson, helps write Batman Eternal, has written Hack and Slash. Guy's got quite a bit of stuff under his belt, and I've enjoyed a lot of that. Sundowners I've definitely liked. Revival I've definitely liked. I'm pretty sure I've liked the Batman Eternal stuff that he's done. So I figured I would get this too. Art is by Marley Zarcone, and colors by Ryan Hill. I really enjoyed this first issue. Basically, the premise here is we've got it starts out, the first like 2 or 3 pages are a children's TV program. Our main character is a child star. She was a star of this kind of, I want to call it like a mix between like the Wiggles and the Power Rangers. It's kind of what this show is a mix of, just really kind of out there kind of a thing. And so she was a child star, and then after the show is canceled after so many seasons and whatnot, she could never get another job in Hollywood because she is always typecast in this child role and whatnot. So she ends up moving back, she ends up going back to her hometown that she in, and she gets a job as a policeman. And basically she's a meter maid. That's what she does. She's a meter maid. And of course she has some conflicts with some of the townspeople at times because, of stuff that she said in her past or actions that she made in her past. She has this mother who is kind of like the ultimate Tiara and Toddler's mother, the ultimate stage mother. She's still living, her brain is still living in Hollywood. She spends her time watching TV and basically dissing on the other child stars or other actors that are her daughter's age that she sees on screen, kind of thing. And she's incredibly nasty and ugly about it, and that kind of makes her wonderful. And just the fact that she's so vile, it's just fun to see what kind of vile crap comes out of her mouth. And she's so vile to the point where she actually had her daughter do a fake sex tape. They did a sex tape and then fakely, it got leaked. And oh my gosh, just to try and generate some other stuff about her and whatnot. What kind of mom suggests that their daughter does a porno? I don't know English. At any rate, so so she's a meter maid, and she gets called by the chief of police to go to what sounds like a murder. And she's like, man, I don't know why I'm going to the murder. It's going to be really exciting. Well, the Effigy is for Effigy Mound. Effigy is the city. There's these mounds outside the city that were built by the mound builders here in the North American continent. There were a group of Native Americans who built mounds. This is a set of those mounds. There's some archaeologists at those mounds digging through it, digging up the old bones and stones, right? And so they come across a body that's mummified, but it's not old. It's got a 9 caliber bullet hole in its head. And the most intriguing thing about it is, and the reason they've called in this young woman is because on her back is tattooed like the logo of her children's big, huge, whole back tattoo of her children's show. And we also find out there's this other girl kind of doing some prostitution work, it seems like, who's watching television while she's working, and she sees this woman kind of walk by a TV camera, like she's really there to say, hey, who I am, just happens to spot in the background. She freaks out because, oh my God, she's back on television. So there seems to maybe be a cult of her and her show in this town. And so how does this all tie together? We don't know. Gonna find out. I thought it was really fun. Not like earth-shattering, mind-bending work and whatnot, but a lot of fun. I enjoyed the comic, and I've been told by some people that it's a miniseries. I didn't see that, so I'm gonna have to do some more looking to see if it's a miniseries or if there's something that's gonna go on. Either way, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. Bodies is ending. This is gonna be a fun thing to pick up in its place by Vertigo. Some fun stuff. And finally, this time is Revival. Tim Seeley book. This is Revival issue number 27. Mike Norton on art. Great artwork. Great writing. Great characters. Great dialogue. Great thick moments to the whole thing. There's always at least 15 things going on all at the exact same time in this book. Makes it incredibly serialized and incredibly interesting. Here we have this gorgeous cover with these revival fish that are dead but are alive. We actually run into this at one point in the book, which was really awesome and really exciting. The daughter who is working for the police department, she kind of goes on a black ops mission. It looks like possibly she's going to shoot the crazy old right-wing coot that's been causing her dad and her son problems. It kind of backfires on her. Now she's in a very, very bad position. Curious to see how that all lines up. Is the crazy coot really crazy enough to go through with some of the things that it looks like he may be implying, which will be really interesting in this. We find our long-lost professor, who is the kind of ex-lover of M here, who has her own issues going on. It'll be serious to see how that all works out now that they've found him. Don't really want to say a lot about this because I've been talking to a lot of you guys out there who haven't read this at all, so I'm nervous to say much of anything, because anything I'd be talking about that's going on in the book right now, if you're going to start picking up the trades, which I suggest you do if you haven't read this, at least get the first trade. Try that first trade. It's a image first trade, so what? It's a whopping $9.99 for that first trade. Check it out. If you dig it, keep getting the trades, because I think it's really cool. Get on board with this great book. No end in sight, and there's nothing about this book that says that there's an ending. It just keeps little pieces get solved as bigger layers get added to it, whatnot. Just great, amazing stuff. I continue to just really enjoy it. To me, it's really rich and thick and enjoyable because it is so serialized. Great stuff. And that's it for my No Capes. Thanks for watching. What are you reading? A week ago, what No Capes kind of stuff came out that I didn't pick up. I know there was The Dying and the Dead. I missed that. I tried going to get it. I couldn't get it. Tell me what your thoughts are on that. I'd be curious to hear more people's thoughts. It's been a week out now, and it's sounded more like it's a mixed bag from people. I mean, it was 60-some pages, but just because it was a lot of pages doesn't mean they were good pages. Were they good pages? Talk to me. What else? At any rate, see you next week.